Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Totally Awesome Podcast. My name is JoshAgeddon, your host as always. I teased it a little on the most recent episode of Post-TAP, if you have not listened to Post-TAP. How dare you, you slut! Whatever podcast you like, it's probably better, but please check mine out as well. It's in the description somewhere, I'm sure, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc., etc., etc. Today, I am reviewing AEW All In 2024. It's just me. Normally, when we talk about wrestling pay-per-views or premium live events on this channel, it's me, Sean, and Skylar, or some amalgamation of the three of us. They refused to watch this show, and I don't blame them because it's AEW. Our relationship and history with All Elite Wrestling has not exactly been a positive one. There's been a few bumps in the road. So yeah, they refused to watch this show. I don't blame them. I did, however, watch this show, so I will be reviewing this show on this episode of the Totally Awesome Podcast. The worst podcast you ever heard, so it's so bad to play, make you tap out! Kind of like in the main event. Spoilers! But yeah, we'll get all that. So, AEW All In 2024. Overall, I thought it was a very good show. Despite all of my constant bashing of AEW, although in my humble opinion, it is well-deserved and completely justified. I mean, just look at the collapsing ratings of Dynamite and the virtually non-existent ratings of Rampage. Yes, they still do that show. And Collision. Yes, they still do that show. But yeah, this was a very good show. This was if anything, AEW usually has good pay-per-views. And I actually thought that this All In was better than last year's All In. This was a more focused and condensed version of All In. Like, last year's All In was fine, but there were some definite lulls. This show, more than any AEW show I've seen in a while, just kind of flew by. Like, there was only one match where I was like, okay, can we pick up the pace here? Actually, there were two matches where I was like, alright, can we just move on? So, but yeah, for the most part, this show just kept on trucking along. It was well-paced, except for a couple spots that I'll get to. But I never got the feeling I usually feel whenever I watch AEW, where I'm like, this is way too long. This is way too long, and I'm only a fourth of the way through the show. Yeah, this show, let's see, how many matches were on this show total? 12. So there were only 9 matches on the actual pay-per-view. So, as opposed to their usual 20. Like, seriously, I think it was Forbidden Door that had, like, 15 matches, 12 matches on the actual show. Like, no. A more condensed card like this, please. Like, this is something that WWE is doing that I love, that AEW needs to start doing. Not everyone deserves to be on the show. Like, I get it, you want to make everyone feel all warm and fuzzy and hand out all the participation trophies, but not everyone deserves or needs to be on the show. Sometimes a shorter show is going to be the better show. Like, I'm looking forward to Bash in Berlin next week. And I love the 5-match pay-per-views that Triple H has been doing for a while. They just whiz on by. I like to whiz if you haven't noticed. Not like Skylar, who likes to whiz mid-podcast, but the less said about that, the better. There was a 0-hour pre-show, which I did not watch. I never watch pre-shows, but I just want to run through this real quick because it gives me indigestion. One of my many criticisms of AEW is the over-reliance on, let's do a tag team match with 185 people. There's way too much of that in AEW. Case in point, the first match on the pre-show was a 16-man tag team match.
Are you fucking kidding me? Tony Khan, go to rehab.
Like, what the fuck is this? I don't even know who half of these people are. I'm not reading all the names. I see Anthony Ogogo. Again, we say it every time. He needs to Ogogo away. Just a 16-man tag match. Why? Then there was a mixed tag, Willow Nightingale, who I hate, and Tomohiro Ishii versus Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway, who I don't even think is an actual wrestler. Why? Whatever. And if in case you didn't get sick and tired of the multi-man tag team matches enough with the 16-man tag, after that was a 10-man tag. So first they have a 16-man tag, and then they have a 10-man tag. Why? I mean, I didn't watch it because I don't watch pre-shows, but holy shit, Tony Khan. You have a problem. Like, you need to go to Multi-Tags Anonymous. Because, like, there needs to be some kind of intervention. Like, specifically with tag matches with 85 bazillion people. It's ridiculous. I'm so glad I skipped all of this shit. So much so that the Ground Zero hour kickoff pre-show, post-show, pre-show show ended with all of the entrances for the next match, which was a 4-way 6-man tag trios London ladder match for the AEW Trios Championship. My God, I'm barely into this show, and I already feel like I can already feel a migraine coming on. I'm glad I started with this. Like, literally, so much went by, and there's one thing I do about the pre-show that I want to touch on before I start with the actual show, but, like, it was so bad that they had to start the show so the show wouldn't be insufferably long. They had to start the show, like, after all of the trios tag teams got in the ring. So they started the show, and this is a 4-way London ladder match for the tag titles. Go! Ring the bell! This is a ladder match. Go! Like, 10 seconds into the show, the bell rang. I don't think I've ever seen that. No opening hype package. Just the title cards. This is AEW All In London. Ladder match, go! Ladder match, go! Well, we only have a limited time. Go! I laughed my ass off at that. But before I get into the Armageddon Omega Infinity War ladder match of the end times, I do want to touch on the fact that the one thing on the pre-show that I did watch was the return of Jamie Hayter, who is trying her absolute best to look almost exactly like Becky Lynch. Like, she's Becky Lynch on Wish. She's the Temu Becky Lynch. Hey, can we go see Becky Lynch? No, Billy, we have Becky Lynch at home. Becky Lynch at home. That's what this was. I mean, she got a really good pop, and she beat up Soraya's entire family, which I guess was something. I don't know why they had her return on the pre-show. You'd think they would save that for the main show, but apparently, she has real-life heat with Britt Baker. I mean, who doesn't? And I will get to Britt Baker later on, but, like, that doesn't surprise... Britt Baker probably got into an argument with her mom, like, after her mom gave birth to her, because it wasn't about her enough. But anyway. Like, the doctor... Baby Britt Baker slapped the doctor because the doctor wasn't already paying her enough attention. But, again, we'll get to that. I'm not a big Britt Baker fan, if you haven't noticed. But so, yeah, it was cool that Jamie Hayter came back. I still think it's stupid that they had her return on the pre-show. But I'd be amazed if AEW went through one show without doing something stupid. I think that's way too much to ask for. Speaking of stupid, we kicked the show off with a 4-way London ladder match for the AEW World Trios titles. We had the Patriarchy, great team name, of Christian Cage, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne defending the titles against the Bang Bang Gang, which features my least favorite human being, Juice Robinson, and the Ass Boys. Seriously, like, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Juice Robinson is like if the concept of unprocessed corn became a person. That's Juice Robinson. I hate that guy. The makeshift Blackpool Combat Club, which was I'm not calling him Claudio Castagnoli, I'm calling him Cesaro, and Wheeler Useless and Pac, because it was I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be Death Triangle in this match, which is Pac and the Lucha Bros, but the Lucha Bros are going to WWE, so they really just kind of left Pac hanging out to dry. So it's a makeshift team of Pac and the Blackpool Combat Club and the House of Black, which is Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews. This was every multi-man ladder match spot fest you've ever seen. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a bunch of crazy spots. They actually tried to keep the camera away from the people who were like huddling into position so they can catch the incoming flying body. At least they were trying to not shoot the faker aspects of the show, which I'll give AEW credit for that. The bar is indeed low, ladies and gentlemen. Just some of the spots I remember. The gnarlier spots, honestly, involved Christian Cage, which I died. I won't lie. I died when the match started and he just ran. And then after like a bunch of spots and everyone was dead, then he comes jogging back to the ring to try to win the match. That was hilarious. Like Christian as the ultimate dad heel in AEW is one of the best things about AEW. It's like it is the best thing Christian's ever done. So yeah, that was funny. But him spearing I can't remember who he speared, but he speared someone off of a ladder through a table in the corner. That was pretty cool. And he gave Pac a just devastating looking kill switch onto a chair. That was nasty. But yeah, there was a bunch of crazy spots. I was sad that they didn't actually have, I think it was, who was it? I can't remember who exactly it was, but they were threatening to have some. I think it might have been Juice Robinson. Again, there was so much happening, it's hard to keep track. But someone threatened to chokeslam Mother Wayne through a table, and oh yeah, it wasn't a chokeslam. Mother Wayne had threw Christian Cage a bottle of hairspray, and he started spraying people in the eyes with it. They tried to spray Juice Robinson, but he countered it by holding a chair in the way of the spray. Which, as much as I hate Juice Robinson, that was funny. So he then grabbed the spray bottle and sprayed Mother Wayne in the face. And honestly, this would have turned me around on Juice Robinson. He threatened to pile drive her off the apron through a table, but they stopped him, and he ended up going through a table. If they would have actually gone through with him pile driving Mother Wayne through a table off the apron, I would have completely changed my tune on Juice Robinson, because that would have been hysterical. I know, I'm a sick person. I'm just a little bit of a sick guy, just a little bit. But there's not all that much to say about this match. It was every car crash, crazy ladder match with a couple tables you've ever seen. I will say, I hate the tables they were using on this show. Like, what? I don't know what shitty tables are in London, but, like, these tables were just, like, the most makeshift-looking tables that only broke one way. What happened to the brown tables? You know, the classic brown tables. Why didn't they use any of those? I don't know, but like I did not like I didn't have a problem with them using tables. I hated the tables that they used. like the tables that they used look like almost like cardboard. Like, at least the brown tables, like, yeah, they're makeshift and they're breakaway tables. They're not actual real tables. But at least it looks like it would hurt if someone went flying through it. These, it looks like they're slamming each other on huge pieces of paper. Like you're going through paper mache. Wow, so devastating. Again, this was just your average crazy ladder match. I will say one thing that happened during this match that became a strong annoyance throughout the show. This was one of the first, I don't remember exactly what was said, but it resulted in Tony Schiavone using his catchphrase, which of course is, "Oh, that was a good call." okay. People are like, all the time, people are like, Excalibur is the worst commentator. He's not good, but at least he's trying to tell you what is going on. He comes off like a fucking dork all the time. Like Michael Cole on Wish. If Michael Cole was like a massive geek for New Japan. Tony Schiavone is the worst commentator in wrestling right now. He is insufferable. He is like the most weenie shire aspects of Michael Cole cranked up to 100 minus all of the credibility. Because Michael Cole actually has credibility and can be entertaining when he wants to be. Tony Schiavone is awful. Tony Schiavone is the worst. All he does is, this is great! This is amazing! I love my job! That was a good call, Taz. That was a good call, Taz! That was a good call! That's his only contribution to commentary, and I hate it. Like, see, again, I don't like Excalibur, but I just wish that it was a two-man booth of Excalibur and Taz. Or Excalibur and Nigel McGuinness. Tony Schiavone adds nothing. He is beyond useless. The only contribution to human society that he has had in this calendar year was when he just went full-on sicko mode when Mariah May was in the ring that one time and he was like, "Speak, bitch. Come on now." Like, what the fuck even was that? That's the one entertaining thing he's done all year. Like, actually, where is that soundbite? Where is that soundbite? Where is that soundbite? Alright, I got it.
Oh, speak, bitch. Come on now.
And all the other commentators were like, what's it? Tony! Tony, no! The horror in the reaction of Taz. Oh, that's the one good thing Tony Schiavone has contributed to wrestling in all of 2024. Speak, bitch. Come on now. Oh, man. So yeah, Tony Schiavone sucks. Where was I? Oh yeah, this ladder match. So Pac went up and yanked down one of the belts. He won the match for his team, so the makeshift combat club is now your trios champions. Again, I still hate the trios titles. The idea of a 6-man title is stupid, and I hate it, but whatever. Pac got his Wembley moment, and he'll be challenging Will Ospreay for the international title at All Out in 2 weeks, which I might watch that show. I don't know if I'm going to do a entire podcast about it. I might. Depends on how good and or bad or whatever the show is. It depends on my mood, I guess. And also, this actually, one thing that I do like was kind of a through line from this into one of the next matches, was Christian Cage stopped Killswitch or Luchasaurus, the dinosaur, from winning the match because Christian Cage wanted the glory for himself, and then that backfired. And then Christian Cage blamed Luchasaurus after the match, even though he was the one that told Luchasaurus to stop climbing the ladder so he could win. So I like that they teased that, and they used that to build to a swerve later, which I actually loved. The idea is fucking stupid. The execution was actually brilliant, and I went back and I loved it. So, yeah, the opening match, the ladder match for the trios title, like, Shawn and Skyler would have hated this match. I thought it was fine. It was a fun opener to get the crowd going, oh, they're flying around tables, shitty-looking paper tables, and ladder spots, oh my, Juice Robinson almost pile drove a woman. I wish he did, but he didn't, so that was kind of lame. But speaking of women getting pile drivers, we got our wish in this next match. This was one of the best things on the show. Honestly, the takeaway from All In is 3 matches. Will Ospreay and MJF, the main event, and this match. Timeless Tony Storm defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Mariah May. This was a great match. I haven't exactly been keeping up with everything that has been going on between these two because AEW's women's roster is essentially useless. Like, there's like one or two people that are worth giving a shit about, and there's a lot of just nothing. Like as much as I don't like WWE's women's roster because of how useless it is, it's even more of a barren wasteland here in the land of All Elite. But I did like the angle that they did a couple weeks ago where Mariah May tried to puncture the skull of Toni Storm with her high heel shoe. That was some nice violence, and Toni sold it very well. And that led to this match. And honestly, MJF is the best heel, possibly the second best heel of the night, and the best heel in women's wrestling right now is Mariah May. She made me belly laugh because, like, during her entrance, they pointed out that her mother was at ringside, and this is the second time that her mother's actually been, like, in attendance for her wrestling a match. During the match, like, she's just healing on everyone. She spits on Toni Storm's butler, Luther, and yells, "Fuck you" at him, which I thought was hilarious. And then she goes over to her own mother and slaps the teetotal shit out of her. And the crowd reacted in horror. That's a new one. That is a new one. Like, usually you go over and, like, insult or throw a drink at the family of your opponent. It is next level heel to go over and slap your own mother. Like, what the fuck? I popped at that. And the crowd's reaction to that. And her mom looked so nice. Her mom also looked ancient and fragile and frail. But she just got these shit slapped out of her, and I died. That's a new one. That's a new one. Slapping your own mom at a wrestling show. That's a new one. That was great. But these two have chemistry. Like, they worked very well together. Like, this actually is one of the better women's matches I've seen this year. Like, and honestly, right after she slapped her mom, Toni Storm gave her Storm Zero on the ring steps. So that was brutal. And it led to Mariah May, like, bleeding a gusher from the top of her head. And again, credit to AEW, she went over to console her opponent's mother, because she's a babyface. And they focused on that, so no one saw Mariah May over in the corner gigging, which you knew she was doing that because she came up bloody. So, gone are the days, I guess, of the camera zooming in on Jon Moxley's face while he's gigging in the corner, just jamming that into his forehead. Like, that is one of the low points in AEW, ladies and gentlemen. That was embarrassing, but I guess those days are behind. Speaking of which, Jon Moxley was nowhere on this show. Huge thumbs up. Huge positive. And no Renee Paquette. Because, she is also useless. But, yeah, so they did not zoom in on Mariah while she was gigging. So good on the AEW crew for that. Like, they were good at hiding the faker aspects of the show on this show as far as camera work is concerned. So I will commend the production for that. But, yeah, these two honestly beat the shit out of each other. And there was a part where Mariah gave her a sunset bomb to the outside. Toni sold this so well. Like, just the look on her face. Like, it made me think of one time I was on a swing set and I tried to jump off the swing, but my pants were, like, stuck to the seat. So I just face planted and it knocked the wind out of me. And I just rolled over and I was just like... Toni sold that like she got the wind knocked out of her, and it was perfect. Toni Storm is great. The women's division in AEW is in shambles, basically, but, like, she did very good in this match. Toni Storm is always very good. And honestly, this was my first real look at Mariah May, and this was a very good first impression. Like, she was very good in this match. They worked very well. They had plenty of time. And honestly, like, due to the story they've been building for months and months and months, even though I haven't seen a lot of it because I usually don't watch AEW television because it's very missable. Like, I tried to watch Dynamite a couple weeks ago, and I got bored and stopped. Again, like, I can watch 3 hours of Raw, no problem. I can watch SmackDown, no problem. AEW just bores me to tears. Like, Dynamite is just a slog. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that I kind of hate the guy that runs the company, and the company is kind of toxic. The name and the brand just evoke ire, and that kind of makes it hard to sit through. I don't know, but anyway, back to this match. This was still a fun match, and I love that Mariah May won by using Toni Storm's own finisher on her. She won with Toni Storm's own Storm Zero, so I liked that. And Mariah May won, and she's the new women's champion. And Toni Storm was champion for a good while, and honestly, I think this is the best match of her entire reign as champion. So yeah, I very much enjoyed this. This was honestly, I think the one women's match that has been better this year was Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania this year. But this is like the second best women's match of the year. This was very good. This is easily the best AEW women's match in a hot minute. So yeah, good shit. Good shit. Speaking of shit, up next, oh good lord. And also in this match, we also had a point where Tony Schiavone was like, "Good call! That was a good call!" Tony Schiavone, please retire. You saying that does not put butts in seats. It just doesn't. But yeah, speaking of things, actually very timely transition, because people actually, like, apparently, according to Skylar, who apparently, like, lives and pays rent on Twitter. It's a weird thing. He always gives me and Sean news updates from X, and we appreciate. I mean, he's the statistician. That's what statisticians are gonna do. What statisticians are gonna do, and I guess that means just perpetually be existing on Twitter. But he let us know that, like, when the crowd knew that the Chris Jericho match was next, an entire section got up and left. That is hilarious. So yeah, the next match was Chris Jericho, for some ungodly reason, defending the For the World Championship against Hook. This was not very good. It honestly, this whole match was just like, why is this happening? What did Hook do to deserve this? And it wasn't awful. Like, things were happening, but it's just, I can't get into Chris Jericho matches. And apparently that entire section agrees with me. The one thing I do like that they did is it's a no DQ match, so Big Bill and Brian Keith, Jericho's helpers, immediately got involved. They didn't wait to help, so that was a positive. But, I mean, there was a point where Jericho went under the ring, grabbed a satchel, and of course you immediately assume there's thumbtacks, but apparently he just brings out random weapons now. He brought out cricket balls. And then Hook went and got a cricket bat. And of course, London cheered because London is just weird. Like, you want to know why the British lost the American Revolution? Because they named a sport after a bug. Like, I don't understand. This was so dumb. And Hook was trying to hit cricket balls at Jericho, gave up because, you know, he's an American. Only British people can play cricket, apparently. He picked up the cricket balls and started hurling them at Jericho, so that was funny. But this was just a slog. Nothing was happening. Every once in a while, Hook would do a suplex. Then at a random point, he took off the eye patch to reveal, oh, I'm actually not blind. So you were faking being half blind all, like, 3/4 of the way through a no disqualification match? Like, in kayfabe, is Hook actually retarded? This was dumb. It made me think of the first Revolution pay-per-view where John Moxley went into the match against Jericho with an eye injury, but then was like, "Oh, my eye actually isn't hurt," and then he DDT Jericho and won. What is it with Chris Jericho and feuding with people who end up faking their eyeball injuries? Why is this Jericho's thing? Of all of the gimmicks to have, wrestling people who fake eye injuries is a very weird gimmick to have. It's a very weird, very specific gimmick. Literally the only good thing about this match was the finish, where Taz put Brian Keith in the weakest looking Taz mission ever, while Hook had Chris Jericho in Red Rum, which is the Taz mission. And the crowd went insane for it, and Jericho tapped, and again the crowd went nuts for it. Like, the finish was great. Honestly, the finish was great. Oh, there was a part where they pulled out another shitty looking paper mache table and put a cardboard thing covered in barbed wire on top of it, and then Big Bill went through it because reasons. This was majorly a dud. This was not very good. It was, again, it wasn't awful. It was just boring and plotting because, Chris Jericho weighs like 100 bajillion pounds. He looks like an orca and wrestles like 1-2, and Hook deserves better. But the finish was good. Hook is the FTW champion again, which I guess is basically their hardcore title. I'm not sure what it and all this accomplished other than having Hook and Taz have a good father-son moment. But do something better with Hook. Like, and can Chris Jericho retire? Like, there was actually some fat schlub in the crowd chanting, "Please retire," but no one joined him, so he stopped. But Chris Jericho, please retire. Like, this ain't it, Chief. Just stop. And also, he sang, when he came out to the ring, he sang Judas. I skipped because I don't need to hear Chris Jericho singing. Like, I'll take the studio version of that song. Thank you very much. The actual listenable version of that song. So yeah, this was no good. Speaking of no good, alright, so we have a little rule here on our wrestling reviews where me, Sean, and Skylar are allowed to skip one match per wrestling show. One match we are allowed to skip. I skipped this next match. It was the Young Bucks defending the AEW World Tag Team titles against FTR and the Acclaimed in a triple threat tag team match. I hate triple threat tag team matches. I do not give a single solitary shit about the Young Bucks. I fucking hate FTR. Cash Wheeler is a dumbass. And the Acclaimed are useless. And Rick Knox is the worst referee ever. So naturally, he only ever referees for Young Buck matches because they know that they can get away with shit with him. I skipped this match. The Young Bucks retained. I went right to the finish. They at least they pinned FTR. Good. Fuck FTR. They suck. I don't have an opinion on this. I skipped it. From everything I've heard, it's your average. Let's do a billion moves. The match. And then after the match, the grizzled young veterans came in and attacked people, and I didn't care. So that was that. That was fun, I guess. I skipped that match. I don't have an opinion on it. Up next, a match that actually was really good. The Casino Gauntlet match where the winner gets a future AEW World Championship match. I loved this match. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. I actually really like this concept because basically it starts out with two people, and at random intervals, another person joins the match. But the catch is, if anyone gets a pinfall or submission, that person wins and the match stops, even if not all competitors have made their way to ringside yet. I really like this concept. And this was a fun match. I'm not going to name everyone that was in it. It started off with Orange Cassidy and Kazuchika Okada, which, right, off the bat, this is going to be Jim Cornette's favorite match of the year. I don't hate Orange Cassidy. I'm just kind of to him. But I will say, I died. I was so happy with the Mr. Bean entrance that he did. Like, they cut to a random London street, and I recognized it immediately. And a light opened from the heavens, and out plopped Orange Cassidy like Mr. Bean. If you have never watched Mr. Bean, you have sinned on this day. Fix that. Mr. Bean is amazing. That was the opening intro for basically every Mr. Bean episode. That was the opening intro for Mr. Bean. And I loved it. I died. That was hysterical. And honestly, it's perfect for Orange Cassidy. And another thing they did with his entrance that I loved, he always does, like, his thing is whatever. Like, he doesn't care. He always has the one little firework go off. But since they're at Wembley, the one little firework went off, and then it cut to the aerial view of the stadium, and the one tiny little firework, you could see it leaving the arena. The one tiny little firework. And that was it. And then they cut back. I was dying. Honestly, Orange Cassidy had the second best entrance of the night. Like, from the Mr. Bean entrance to the stadium shot of the one single firework, I was crying. That was so funny. Again, I understand that the more old school wrestling fans utterly detest and despise Orange Cassidy and everything he stands for. I think he's alright. I don't love the guy. I don't hate the guy. I'm just kind of meh on him. Same with the Young Bucks. I don't hate them. I don't love them. I'm just like, whatever. But I love that entrance. That was hysterical. But then number 3 came out, and my God, Wembley Stadium nearly came unglued. Nigel McGuinness walks out, and the reaction this dude got. He basically got the CM Punk in Chicago reaction. Like, this was great, and he looked so happy, and he looked a little slow, but this has been his first match in front of, like, anyone since 2011, so I will cut him some slack for having a little bit. He looked good, but you can tell he hasn't done this in a while. He had a little bit of ring rust. But not like, he didn't look bad. He didn't look out of place. He just looked a little reserved, which, again, he hasn't wrestled since 2011, so, of course, he's going to have a little bit of ring rust. But he looked good. He looked good, and the crowd loved him. And the crowd popped like crazy for Jeff Jarrett, who has the best punch of anyone on the AEW roster, which should not surprise anyone. He has a very good worked punch. Like, he should honestly teach classes on how to throw a good punch. Zack Sabre Jr. came out, and, like, that made me happy. And we got some chain grappling between Zack Sabre Jr. and Nigel McGuinness. Zack Sabre Jr., of course, is likely going to be winning the IWGP World Championship soon. The pop that Zack got was great. Made me happy. I love Zack Sabre Jr. He's my boy. There was some good chain grappling, and Kyle O'Reilly was in there as well. So we got some masterful chain grappling in this, so that was great. And then we had Ricochet come out, making his AEW debut, and he also got a monster reaction. This was the show for monster reactions. Like, Jamie Hayter got a massive reaction. Nigel McGuinness got a massive reaction. Ricochet got a massive reaction. Jeff Jarrett, Will Ospreay, Bryan Danielson, all these people just got mega reactions. Sting later on in the show got a huge reaction. This was the show for the mega ultra return pop. Like, there were a lot of those on the show, and that honestly helped the overall quality of the show. But Ricochet went in, and he just started flying all over the place, and he looked great. I hope that he does well in AEW. I'm worried he's going to kind of get lost in the shuffle like a lot of people in AEW do. I hope that is not the case. I hope that they have something in mind for him. But then, we get to the end of the match. Christian Cage comes out, and then not Killswitch, but Luchasaurus comes out. Basically, the idea is they were teasing that Christian Cage was being a dick, and that Lucha was getting tired of it. So Luchasaurus comes out as Luchasaurus and goes right for Christian, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's turning babyface. He's breaking away from his abusive, not actual father." Only to turn around, immediately chokeslam Kyle O'Reilly, and put Christian Cage on top of him for the win. Christian Cage wins the Battle Royal, the Casino Gauntlet match. The air that was let out of the building. This was the equivalent to the beginning of the year on Raw, where they were like, a former WWE champion is making his return to Raw. Everyone thinks it's The Rock. So Jinder Mahal comes out and everyone's like, oh. That was the reaction this finish got. And it was amazing. I died laughing. The reaction from the crowd to the finish of this match was absolutely hysterical, and I loved it. Like, I laughed so hard. Like, the finish itself, when you think about it, is kind of dumb. But the way they did it and the way the crowd reacted to it was chef's kiss. 1 billion stars. I loved it. Just that finish was magnificent. And it is purely because the crowd just the crowd audibly groaned. But in a, oh, you're such a dickish heel. What? Not in a, oh, well, that sucked. But in the way you want them to. Like, the way Triple H wanted the crowd to just groan because they hate Jinder Mahal. That was exactly the way they reacted for this finish, and it was glorious. And I loved it. Like, I liked this Casino Gauntlet match, and the finish was magnificent. So, yeah, thumbs up for that. And then after that, we have what, in my opinion, was the best match of the entire night. The main event was a close second, but this was the match of the night, in my opinion. Will Ospreay versus MJF for the AEW American/International Championship. First off, Will Ospreay's Assassin's Creed entrance was very cool. I've never played Assassin's Creed before, but I know of it. That was a pretty cool entrance. And it makes sense because his thing is he's the aerial assassin. Will Ospreay and MJF have absolutely insane chemistry together. They just mesh so well. Just like, their movements were so fluid and great, and the selling in this match was great. Like, a lot of people criticize Will Ospreay for not selling good enough. His selling in this match was great, was perfectly fine. He was very good in this match. I loved when Will Ospreay went for that handspring moonsault to the outside for the second time, but MJF caught him and tombstoned him on the floor. Now, I know some people are going to be like, a tombstone piledriver on the floor, that should be the finish. You're not wrong. But I just, and the fact that, like, not only that, MJF kind of fell over a little bit when he was trying to catch him, but he balanced himself and stood back up. So, and then hit the tombstone. So that was impressive, and I very much liked that. And another thing that I really liked, like, there was a part where, like, this sequence was just magnificent. Will Ospreay tried to go for Stormbreaker, but MJF wiggled out of it right into position for Crossroads. And when I tell you he spiked this motherfucker, he spiked Will Ospreay. This is one of the most brutal looking, just disgusting Crossroads I've ever seen. It was gnarly. Like, they beat the shit out of each other in this match. And, like, I was just enthralled throughout. Like, I saw some of their match on Dynamite that went almost an hour, and I haven't watched the whole thing because when I watched it, I was kind of tired, and I just kind of turned it off because, like, I wanted to get some sleep, and I was like, this is going to go for an hour. I should probably get some sleep. So I need to rewatch that match because, like, they work very well together. And, yeah, these two just have insane chemistry. MJF and Will Ospreay are both just really good. And I do love that MJF being a heel is just the funniest thing. Like, he went on the apron and was like, anybody can do a flip. And then he did a moonsault off the apron, but he missed it because Will Ospreay moved out of the way. And then they did more stuff. But MJF is a good heel. Also, water is wet. But what made me go, oh dear, was, like, late in the match, Will Ospreay goes for a hidden blade off the apron, misses MJF, and he obliterated this poor he murdered this cameraman. Like, a warrant is now out for the arrest of Will Ospreay in London for the murder of cameraman number 5. He destroyed this dude. Like, I've seen some nasty ref bumps. This was, like, next level cameraman bump. Like, this was gnarlier than any ref bump I've seen this year. Like, it was great. And it even cut to a shot of the crowd. A fan was like, oh my god. Like, you can see written all over her face, was that supposed to happen? And that's when you know you've got him. And then we kind of got to the finish of this, which, okay, there were a few problems with the finish. Not that it was anyone's fault. Apparently, MJF lost or had stolen the Dynamite diamond ring that he usually uses to win matches. And that was a shoot. Like, someone actually stole the diamond ring. So he couldn't use it in this match. So he had to use this makeshift brass knuck tape thing to threaten to punch Will Ospreay for it. But then a hooded figure came out and stopped him, and it's Danny Garcia. I do not give a single solitary shit about Danny Garcia. He's just a nothing to me. But the crowd popped like crazy for it, and it makes sense with the story that they were telling, because the last time we saw Danny Garcia, MJF beat the shit out of him, so it makes sense. I just don't care about Danny Garcia. Like, at all. And then he turned around and MJF got waffled by a hidden blade. And then Will Ospreay finally hit the Tiger Driver, nearly crippled MJF with it, and then got the 1-2-3. The crowd went nuts for this entire match and exploded at the finish. It was perfect. And this honestly was the best thing on the show, in my opinion. This was great. And then Will Ospreay replaced the American title. He didn't even touch the American title. He got the international title back. So he's the international champion again. And this honestly stole the show, in my opinion. And this is an instance where AEW has proven that when they want to, they can tell a good story. Like, they told a good story with the whole Mariah May, Toni Storm thing. They told a good story here, and they told a good story in the main event. I just wish that they would do that more. More frequent good storytelling is just something that I wish they would do more. Because they have the ability to do it. It worked. It worked like gangbusters in this match. I just wish that they would do it more often. But yeah, this was fantastic. Up next... Oh boy. This next match was about as far from MJF and Will Ospreay as you could possibly imagine, as you could possibly get. This was the low point of the show. The TBS Championship on the line. Mercedes Moné versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Okay. A lot of people are saying this match sucked. I didn't hate it, but man, it took forever for, like, anything to get into it. Like, on one hand, the crowd was exhausted from the previous match and the craziness of the Casino Gauntlet match. This is one thing, like, a lot of people complain about how WWE has a lot of promos and, like, a lot of nothing happening in between matches that just eats up TV time. They do this so that when the matches happen, the crowd will be awake and alive for it. It's not super complicated. It's not hard to figure out why they do this on WWE. They want the crowd to be invested in their matches, not exhausted like they were for this match. Also, the bigger problem, Mercedes Moné is the most not over human being I have ever seen. This is X-Pac. Go away heat. Like, Chris Jericho is more over than Mercedes Moné. This was so hilarious and sad. Like, I hate Mercedes Moné. She just comes off, like, in real life, like the most obnoxious, arrogant bent on planet Earth. She is so full of herself, and I just, like, the actual real person. She gets high off of her own farts. Like, I can't stand her. Or Britt Baker, for that matter. But, like, I honestly kind of started to feel bad for her because the crowd tried to care about the things that Britt Baker was doing. And Camille was out there. The crowd tried to react a little for whenever Camille would do something. The second Mercedes did anything, the crowd died. Like, holy shit. Like, I don't even know how to describe how not over Mercedes is. If she breathed too loud, the crowd went silent. Like, even the crickets got bored and went to the concessions whenever Mercedes Moné did anything. It was hysterical. And it brings me back to, like, back when she was in WWE as Sasha Banks, she gave that whiny, like, backstage interview where she was crying, like, they used to call us the bathroom break match. Well, it appears that you have turned that into a gimmick and a lifestyle, Mercedes Moné. Because there's also video of people getting up and leaving during this match. Hell, I saw this one fat schlub in the front row get up and leave and never return when this match started. Like, I saw this dude get up and just yeet out of the stands because he was like, yeah, I'm going to the bathroom. I gotta piss. No one cares about this match. Like, honestly, like, I like, they tried. Mercedes and Britt tried. But, like, there's only so much you can do when the crowd is fucking silent. It was crazy. It was crazy. It made me think of WrestleMania 34 with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, where they were beating the hell out of each other, and the crowd was just angrily rejecting the match as a concept and not reacting to anything they were doing. It was like that, but with more silence and less anger. Like, the amount of I don't give a shit that people have for Mercedes Moné needs to be studied in a lab. Like, that level of apathy is shocking. I have never seen that level of apathy for someone before. It was hysterical. But, like, they tried, although I will say Mercedes Moné is as sloppy as she always is. Like, there were some things they were trying to do. They were just not on the same page because, again, Mercedes Moné she's just not that good. She is the fourth of the four horsewomen. And that involves sloppy-ass, modern, current-day Charlotte Flair. Like, I would rather, like, at least the crowd would react to something Charlotte would be doing. But man, as far as Britt Baker is concerned, fuck her too. Like, that whole issue a couple weeks ago when she was whining about... honestly, it's poetic justice that this was in the death spot. Because she was backstage bitching and moaning and raising Cain about Will Ospreay and MJF getting an hour-long match on Dynamite. And then, not only, did she get suspended for that, and basically trying to get MJF's girlfriend kicked out of her locker room. Okay, I don't even like AEW, Britt Baker, but that is not your locker room, you obnoxious cunt. That is not your locker room. That is Tony Khan's locker room. Get your enormous head out of your own ass. I don't even know how you managed to fit that enormous melon you have up your own ass. But you did it. Just stop being a bitch. But she whined and complained about that and got suspended over being an asshole. And then at the biggest show that AEW has done all year, she's in the death spot and has to follow MJF and Will Ospreay. Fuck you, Britt Baker. You deserve that. That was deserved. She and Mercedes both deserved to go out there to silence, to an apathetic crowd that did not give a fuck. They deserved that. Especially Britt Baker, after the way that she has been conducting herself. She deserved it, and I hoped it was embarrassing for both of them. I just want them to come back down to earth. That's all I want. And then there was some shenanigans that I didn't care about. Like, Britt Baker did the Eddie Guerrero, oh, she hit me spot. Like, she pretended that Camille had hit her with Camille's belt. Which, in kayfabe, what if the referee disqualified Mercedes Moné? Because he could have totally done that. That was very dumb of you, dumb babyface, Britt Baker. But, so Camille gets ejected, and then Britt Baker goes on to lose anyway. To Mercedes' awful-looking finishing move. Her weird-ass gory bomb into a flatliner that looks worse every time she tries to do it. This was a dud. This was not very good. They tried some stuff here and there. There was a cool-looking backbreaker on the top rope that kind of woke the crowd up from their stupor a little bit. But then the crowd just went right back to being silent. This was not good. This was not very good. But the crowd, to say this was heatless would be a severe understatement. So yeah, this was the low point on the show. Although again, Mercedes and Britt, especially Britt, deserve it. And just how much people do not care about Mercedes is just, it gives me life. Up next was... I described this in the group chat as a thing that happened. We had a coffin match for the TNT championships. Way too many championships in this fucking company, for the love of God. Darby Allin challenging Jack Perry in a coffin match. Right off the bat, Darby Allin comes out with thumbtacks glued to his face. Looked like Pinhead from Hellraiser. And... I don't understand. And this was a wild brawl. If you do not like garbage matches, you won't like this. And again, I messaged Sean and Skylar. You two would also hate this match. They beat the hell out of each other. I'll say that. Darby Allin puts 110% into what he does. And then Jack Perry brought out Broken Glass. And I was like... Why? I mean, thematically, it's kind of funny considering the whole issue with Glass at last year's All In, which right on cue, the fans started chanting, "Fuck CM Punk," which I thought was hilarious. That popped me, I won't even lie. I thought that was funny. But this actually did not go very long. This went 10 minutes. And they just beat the hell out of each other. And then Jack Perry actually was booked to be an intelligent human being because he taped up Darby Allin's hands and then used his belt to tie up his feet, then put him in a body bag, and then put him in the casket. So now Darby Allin, he can't get out, and then he kneed him in the face and closed the casket and won. So I like the finish. It was short, but it was brutal, quick, and effective. So, I enjoyed it. A lot of people won't, but I enjoyed it. And then the Young Bucks came out and they covered Darby Allin and Gasoline and almost set him on fire. But then Sting came out, beat up the Young Bucks. Jack Perry escaped, and Sting got a huge monster pop from the crowd. And then him and his son Darby walked off, and that was that. So, a fun little segment of violence, I guess. Interesting. Again, I wrote it down in the group chat. That was a thing that happened. that happened. I enjoyed it. Of the two hardcore matches on the show, this and the FTW title match, this was way better. Because at least what was happening looked painful. And I would actually refer to it as something hardcore. So, up next we had our main event. Career versus title. Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. This match was also fantastic. Like, if you want to go watch anything from this show, watch the Women's World Title match, watch the International Title match, and watch this match, because this was fantastic. This is easily the best match that Swerve Strickland has ever had. And this is just another really good match that Bryan Danielson has had. Although they did have Jim Ross on commentary. And yes, he did call him Daniel Bryan a couple times. And I laughed harder every time he did it. Jim, I love you. Retire. Jim Ross needs to retire. And Tony Schiavone needs to retire. But yeah, this was great. And like, they did something that actually made me go, oh God! So they distracted the referee at a point. So Prince Nana came over while Swerve had Bryan Danielson up on his shoulders. He put the ring bell underneath them, and then Swerve proceeded to give Bryan Danielson a Death Valley driver on the ring bell. That looked so brutal. And everyone sold it like death. It was great. And of course, Bryan Danielson got up and he was bleeding like a stuck pig. And then Swerve, who was like doing his audition for Best Heel on Planet Earth, dragged Bryan Danielson's bloody carcass over to his wife and children, made them look, and then he started kicking the shit out of Bryan Danielson. I might just be a sick bastard, but that made me laugh. The heat that got. That was hilarious. And even the commentary was like, that's how to traumatize a child. And I was like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We are horrible people for enjoying this. But yeah. Bryan Danielson is so good as, like, Hulk Hogan mastered selling, like doing the babyface selling from underneath. Bryan Danielson has also mastered this art. Like, this whole match was him just trying not to die. And he fought back, and and also Bryan Danielson and Swerve also have some really good chemistry together. I shrieked at a point because Swerve hit Bryan Danielson with a vertebraker. That move scares me, especially considering that he gave it to Bryan Danielson, who has a history of everything problems. But yeah, and just these two just went back and forth, and Bryan Danielson just refused to stay down. One thing I will say, Swerve's finishing moves are like the Swerve Stomp, the House Call, and the Big Pressure. I get that this was a title versus career match, but I would have had Bryan Danielson kick out of less finishing moves. Because, like, it got to the point where it became a little ridiculous. Like, I loved the match, but my one complaint will be they went a little crazy with the finisher kickouts. So, but there were some false finishes that the crowd absolutely bought, hook, line, and sinker. Like, even like the best near fall of the match, honestly, was at a point Hangman Adam Page came over the barricade because he hates Swerve Strickland and he wanted him to lose. but security came out and like they pulled him away, which distracted Swerve. So he turned around and ate the Busaiku knee from Bryan Danielson, and that was like the second one that Bryan hit. Everyone in Wembley thought that was it. But Swerve kicked out. That was such a great near fall. That was such a great near fall. Oh, also, Bryan Danielson also nearly made me shit myself because he gave Swerve a tiger suplex from the top rope. That is the go fuck yourself, I don't like your neck move. And he did the same thing to Will Ospreay, I believe, at Dynasty, I think. And that it was just as terrifying then as it was in this match. There was a lot of scary shit in this match, not gonna lie. But then, finally, I loved the finish for this. Swerve has done everything, but Bryan will not stay down. So he starts stealing the S-kicks. But Bryan Danielson is facing towards his family, and he just starts screaming, I love you guys. And he starts no-selling the kicks, and then just starts beating the shit out of Swerve. And then he finally puts him in the S-lock, and then cranks back both arms, breaks the fingers, and finally Swerve has no choice but to tap out. The pop this got. This pop for Bryan Danielson winning was just thunderous. A thunderous pop. And then Bryan Danielson celebrated with Bree and his kids. Full-on Bree mode in the crowd. And the Blackpool Combat Club and Pac came out to celebrate. And that's how they went off the air with fireworks, confetti. Bryan Danielson is now for the first time the AEW World Champion. And it was great. It was a great main event. I loved it. So now, we get to my overall thoughts on the show. I thought this was a very good show. There were a couple things that I did not like. I did not like the FTW Championship match, and I did not like the TBS Championship match. Although, in a way, it was entertaining because the crowd just not caring at all about Mercedes is the funniest thing ever. I love it when arrogant people realize that people who think that they are beloved by everyone finding out that they're not as beloved as they think they were. That'll never not be entertaining to me. But the women's world title match was fantastic. The international title match was fantastic. And this main event was fantastic. So you have 3 fantastic matches on this show. And a really fun Casino Gauntlet match. So I did like the show better than last year's All In. I think I gave last year's All In a 7 out of 10. I'm going to give this show a 7.5 out of 10. This was a very good show. If it wasn't for the match that I skipped and the 2 matches I didn't like, this would probably get a solid 8 out of 10. But with the what I discussed, I give the show a 7.5 out of 10. Go back and watch the 3 matches that I described. Those are absolutely worth checking out. Hopefully AEW, I've said this before, but hopefully AEW can find their footing and actually not be the dumb lolcow meme company that they have been for a while. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. What's better than 1 good wrestling company? 2 good wrestling companies. But we will see in the future if AEW can continue this momentum that they've gotten from Wembley. I will be checking out Dynamite to see how things progress. But yeah, that was All In. Thank you guys so much for listening to my thoughts on AEW All In. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.